So a couple things. What you just heard was Dr. Hussein speaking extemporaneously, and what he told you is what we were hearing in the back. And I know, as well as you know, what this journey is going to be like, and I hope and pray that you're part of the 2/3 Club. So I really wasn't expecting to follow on such a heavy moment, so I'm going to add a little levity to this. First, stay here. Got some housekeeping clean things to do. I love my wife and kids. Right? That's the most important. I love my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife. And then my wife and kids. Now, the second thing is that this stage often has famous people that are up here, heads of states, dignitaries, celebrities, and usually when they speak, and they get a swag bag, and it's filled with all kinds of great stuff. And Dr. Hussein, who is essentially, a keynote speaker for us, has a little swag bag himself that we got for him. And the hat is ironic. I don't necessarily commend the behavior of this political candidate. In the back it says, "End epilepsy." But on the front, and it's our gift to you, Dr. Hussein, it says, "Make epilepsy great again." So that is for you. We need you to build a huge wall and stop the seizures from coming in, okay? And we're going to pay for it, okay? We have a gift shop, and those hats are available. They are $1,000 each. Good evening, I am Mark Borman. I am the co-chair to Andrew Gumpert. And thank you, my wife, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hussein, for your dedication and commitment to the field of epilepsy. Some people have referred to Dr. Hussein as LeBron James of pediatric epilepsy. But I would argue that it's LeBron James who is a Dr. Sean Hussein of basketball. And I say that with firsthand knowledge. A few summers ago, my son Ari, who's sitting over there, was not in a good place with his seizures. He was in what we call status, which is he was constantly seizing. And this has happened once before, and the only way to stop the seizure was to put Ari in a medically induced coma, and he spent weeks there. So we were kind of looking at that same fate, and we prepared ourselves for the worst. And we packed our bags, and we spent our days and weeks at UCLA. But our plans changed. Dr. Hussein changed them. He was on call, and he took a different approach, and he discharged us. He felt Ari's seizures were connected to a recent illness, and that while there would still be several intense days ahead of us, that putting Ari in a coma to stop his seizures was the wrong thing to do. Well, my wife and I, we thought this was a mistake, but it turned out that Dr. LeBron James Hussein was right. The next few days were indeed tough ones. They were real nail-biters. But slowly but surely, little by little, the seizures slowed and eventually stopped. When thinking about a course of action, like putting a child into a coma or recommending brain surgery, doctors have very little margin of error. The diagnosis of treatment must be swift and accurate, but seizures can also be so subtle that it's unfortunately common for a good pediatrician and sometimes even a good neurologist to miss. The wrong diagnosis can lead to years and years of the wrong medicine, the wrong dosage, the wrong therapy, and most seriously, a loss of potential for a child. At the core, this is what defines a pediatric epileptologist. They are experts in catching the gaze that comes and goes, the small twitches that seem harmless but left alone can have devastating effects. Early childhood brain development is largely a wiring process where tens of thousands of new connections come together and are made every day. And seizures, well, they disrupt those connections. We know that in many types of epilepsies, the first days and weeks after onset are critical. And here is a fact that I recently learned that I think about every day, which is that the delays of achieving seizure control of just 7 days can lead to an irreversible loss of IQ of a child. So in the business of stopping seizures, every second counts. So let's put that in the context of Care+Cure. And tonight, when we started in some parts of town, like Andrew said before, the wait time for a child to see an experienced pediatric epileptologist who is experiencing non-emergency room seizures like little Bob was 6 months. In other parts of town, there simply weren't any qualified doctors. How to eliminate that wait was the mission of the very first Care+Cure, and from there, one doctor at a time, the mission expanded to other hospitals to blanket the entire city so that all children had quick access to the same level of specialized care, regardless of the family's socioeconomic class or geography. Now, if there's one thing that we've learned about the Care+Cure, it's that science is as only good as the person using it. It's like having a doctor's a bag of superpowers, and a critical shortage of superheroes to use them. Our doctors are superheroes. They're the first responders who will always have the biggest impact on the outcome of a child. They're not just committing to caring for our kids today, they're also committing their lifetime to tinker with science in search of a cure so that every storyline can have that same happy ending as Johnson's and little Bob's. Now, before Ari was born, I admit I didn't know much about epilepsy, but watching him seize when he was little, over and over and over and over again, watching his body contort, watching him stop breathe where we'd have to give him oxygen, and it would go on for 3 minutes or 5 minutes and stop for 3 or 5 minutes and then start again. It was a terrible thing. And all I could do is hold his hand and watch. And that was the call to action. 12 years later, he has him, still has him, some days over and over and over again. And all I can do is hold his hand and reaffirm the call to action that we need to stop seizures and end epilepsy. Now, I've witnessed during Ari's lifetime that the medical landscape for treatment of epilepsy in general has greatly improved. We have more medicines, more therapies to treat seizures. We have better diagnostic equipment, better surgical equipment. And looking forward, we will see continued improvements in all of these fields. But our feeling is that genetics will have the biggest impact and be part of our Care+Cure focus moving forward. It will speed up the efficiency and accuracy of a diagnosis and treatment. And in some epilepsy centers, they're starting to use genetics to authenticate a child's epilepsy at the onset of their first seizures rather than simply relying on EEGs and MRIs. This allows doctors to treat the underlying cause, which is the genetic epilepsy, rather than the symptoms, which is the seizures. And as science continues to refine itself, it will give children the opportunity to achieve faster seizure control and eliminate the months and even years of an incorrect best ghost approach. Doctors will know what works for the specific genetic epilepsy and also, more importantly, what doesn't. Now, as I started thinking about tonight, there are two things that resonated. One, outside of my family and friends, and you're all our family and friends here, that sharing this dinner with Andrew has been one of the great privileges of my life. Which leads to number two, an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I'm grateful that we have doctors who've chose such a righteous path to make the world a better place. I'm grateful for everyone in this room tonight and everyone in the same room a year ago and in all the previous years. I'm grateful to Doug Belgrad, who's been a friend and a supporter of this cause from the very beginning, who has allowed us to honor him this evening. And I'm grateful to the Patricks, Weitzel and Waxberger. I'm grateful to the DeLucas, the Bonaventuras, the Lords, the Pascals, the Tisches, Blumenthals, Blacks, and Westons, who all said yes in previous years. I'm grateful for our families who provide us the strength to continue on this journey, but most importantly, I am grateful to Ari and Chloe. As much as we wish that things in their life would be different, that one day the right superpower would come along and poof, change things. They are the two constant reminders of how awful epilepsy is. It's their predicament that is the call to action that keeps Andrew and I coming back year after year. But at the end of the day, they're the lucky ones, because Chloe and Ari have me and my wife Karen, and they have Andrew, and they have Nicole, and we're fighting for them. And for the kids who don't have voices or power or resources, well, the good news is they have you. Each year you make sure that our home, Los Angeles, is a city that takes care of its most challenged and not just its most successful. Because of you, children in need from Westwood to Watts get what they need. You have helped change more lives than a simple video can show, and there's no doubt that we're better off than we were 10 years ago, and that the promise of the next 10 years is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being here all the time. Appreciate it.